Tang Yong, what does your company going bankrupt have to do with me? How much money have you taken from me over the years? Why should I give you this 600,000? Wu Shuyao's voice was sharp and piercing, like a dull knife cutting into my heart. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. But I felt no pain. My gaze fell on the colorful lottery ticket on the coffee table. 8 million. Such a tempting number. But this 8 million had torn my marriage of many years to shreds. We've been married for 5 years. Childhood sweethearts. And we've weathered the toughest times together. I thought we were each other's salvation. But little did I know. It was just wishful thinking on my part. My company's cash flow dried up, and I desperately needed 600,000 yuan for working capital. But she would rather watch me go bankrupt than lend a helping hand. This 8 million is my personal property. You'll have to figure out your company's accounts yourself. She sneered. The face that was once gentle and tender in my eyes now only showed meanness and indifference. I stared at her, my Adam's apple bobbing. But the words that came out were just a self-deprecating chuckle. I suddenly felt a pang of irony. Once, I would spend an entire day running around under the scorching sun just to buy her a box of her favorite strawberries. Now, I've fallen so low, and she watches coldly. Not even a shred of lingering affection. I didn't say anything more. I just silently looked away, and somewhere in my heart, it felt like something had shattered completely. As I walked out of the villa, I glanced back. This 3-story building had once held all my dreams for the future. We had our wedding here, and spent countless ordinary yet heartwarming nights here. But now, all I see is cold steel and concrete. My phone suddenly rang. It was my assistant. Xiao Wang. Mr. Tang. Mr. Sun is pressing us very urgently. He said if we don't have the money by 3 p.m., we'll take legal action. Xiao Wang's voice was filled with obvious anxiety. I replied, my voice sounding eerily calm. I drove aimlessly through the city, my mind a complete mess. 600,000 yuan for a company on the verge of bankruptcy. It's a lifeline. But for someone who wins 8 million in the lottery, it's just a drop in the ocean. Yet Wu Shuyao, she was so heartless. I took out my cigarette case, pulled out a cigarette, and lit it. I rarely smoke. The last time was when my grandmother passed away. Through the swirling smoke, Wu Shuyao's face, etched with disgust, appeared before my eyes. She didn't even ask me what difficulties the company was facing. She just immediately distanced herself from me, as if afraid I would take a single penny from her. I gave a bitter laugh. 5 years of marriage, it turns out, really meant nothing. I parked my car in front of Old Lee's noodle shop. Old Lee's beef noodles were my favorite when Wu Shuyao and I first got married. Back then we were poor, and we could only afford 1 bowl of noodles a day, which we shared. She would always put the beef on my plate, saying I worked hard and needed to eat more. Boss, a bowl of beef noodles, please. I walked into the noodle shop and found a corner to sit down. Old Lee came over with a bowl of noodles. When he saw it was me, he smiled Kanho Ly and said, Little Tang, it's not like we see you here often. Have you been promoted and made a fortune that you look down on my little noodle shop? I forced a smile but didn't actually laugh. Hey, Old Lee, don't make fun of me. I just wanted noodles today, so I came over. I lowered my head to eat the noodles, but I couldn't taste the flavor I remembered from back then. After a few bites, I couldn't eat anymore. Little Tang, why do you look so pale? Is something wrong? Old Lee was a kind-hearted man, and seeing that I had no appetite, he asked with concern. I shook my head and didn't say anything. Some things are simply unspeakable, especially when your closest loved ones betray you. That kind of pain can only be swallowed alone. I paid and left the noodle shop. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and time was ticking away. My heart grew heavier and heavier. I picked up my phone and, almost without thinking, dialed Wu Shuyao's number. A sliver of hope lingered in my heart. Perhaps she would change her mind? Hello, what is it? Her voice was cold and devoid of any emotion. Wu Shuyao, the company is really on the verge of collapse. 600,000. Could you? Before I could finish speaking, she interrupted me. Tang Yong, I've told you, this 8 million is my money. I won't give you a single penny. Don't call me again. I'm annoyed. With that, she hung up the phone. My hand trembled, and I almost dropped my phone. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. My nails dug into my palm, and this time I felt the pain. A lot of pain. It turns out I really misjudged her. These 5 years of marriage were unforgettable for me. But to her, they were probably just a joke. I didn't call anyone else. I just drove to our company building. I went to the office, and Mr. Sun and the others were already waiting in the conference room. I pushed open the door. The atmosphere inside was somewhat heavy. Mr. Tang, what do you think about this matter? Mr. Sun looked at me, hesitating to speak. I'm sorry, Mr. Sunday, I said, my voice hoarse. I couldn't raise the money. After saying that, I felt all the strength drain from my body. Like a deflated balloon, I sat in the chair, letting them deliver the expected outcome. Bankruptcy liquidation. It suddenly didn't seem so unbearable to me anymore. After my heart turned cold, my body became numb to all external stimuli. When I left the company, it was completely dark. I walked alone on the street. 5 years of hard work, all gone in an instant. But what hurt me even more was Wu Shuyao's heartlessness. I got home, opened the door, and the living room was dark. The lights were off. I assumed Wu Shuyao wasn't home. But when I went into the bedroom, I found a lump on the bed. She was lying on the bed, her back to me, seemingly asleep. I didn't turn on the light. I just groped my way to the wardrobe and took out a few changes of clothes. I was going to sleep in the guest room. Where are you going? Wu Shuyao's voice suddenly rang out, tinged with weariness, yet still clear and cold. Rest. I replied casually. Tang Yang, are you still angry with me? She turned over, and I couldn't see her expression in the darkness. I didn't say anything. I just turned my back to her and continued packing my clothes. I'm sorry about the company, but I really don't have that much money. She sighed, her tone carrying a barely perceptible pretense. 8 million sounds like a lot, but I have my own plans for it. I sneered inwardly. Not that much money. 8 million isn't much in your eyes. And what about your plans? Your plans are to watch me go bankrupt while you live a carefree life? It's none of your business. My voice remained calm, as if I were talking about something that had nothing to do with me. Tang Yang, don't be like this. We are husband and wife after all. She sat up, got out of bed, and in the darkness I felt her walk behind me. Her hand gently rested on my shoulder, and I stiffened for a moment, instinctively pulling away. Are we still husband and wife? I turned around, and in the dim light streaming in from the window, I saw a look of surprise on her face. You wouldn't even give me 600.000 yuan, and you just watch me go bankrupt. Is this what you call being husband and wife? Stop talking. Her voice suddenly rose, as if I had touched a sore spot. Do you think I don't want to help you? But I have my own reasons. Difficulties? I sneered. Wu Shuyao, what difficulties do you have? Are your difficulties just excuses for your selfishness? I ignored her and walked out, picking up my clothes. Tang Yang, she called out from behind me. I didn't turn around. I went to the guest room and locked myself inside. I lay on the bed, closed my eyes, and my mind kept replaying every moment we'd shared since we met. From school days to our wedding dress. From poverty to a comfortable life. I once thought we'd grow old together, but now it seems it was all just a one-sided drama on my part. The next morning, I woke up feeling sore all over. I got up, washed up, and went downstairs. Wu Shuyao was already sitting at the dining table. Breakfast was laid out on the table, milk, bread, and fried eggs. Everything seemed perfectly normal. Let's have breakfast, she said as I came downstairs. I walked to the table and sat down. Without looking at her, I silently picked up my milk and took a sip. The milk was very cold, so cold that it chilled me to the bone. Tang Yang, do you really hate me? She put down her chopsticks, her voice tinged with a hint of caution. I put down my cup and looked up at her. Her eyes were bloodshot, as if she hadn't slept well last night. Hate. I laughed, a laugh tinged with self-mockery and sorrow. I don't hate you. I just feel pathetic. Pathetic? Her expression changed. What's pathetic about you? It's pathetic that I've raised an ungrateful wretch for the past 5 years, I said, looking directly into her eyes. Word by word. Tang Yang. She stood up abruptly, her face flushed red. Explain yourself clearly. Explain yourself clearly? I sneered. Fine. What do you want to explain? How exactly did you spend your 8 million? Her body stiffened, a flicker of panic crossing her eyes. I'm spending my own money. What's it to you? Yes, it's your money. So what's it to you? I stood up and picked up my car keys. But don't forget, we're still husband and wife. I'm going to the company to handle bankruptcy liquidation procedures today. You don't need to wait for me for lunch. I said this and left without looking back. I didn't see it the moment I turned around. Wu Shuyao's face turned deathly pale. The company's bankruptcy liquidation proceeded exceptionally smoothly, since the books were already empty and there was nothing left to liquidate. The only thing left was a mountain of debt. I signed my name on a pile of documents, the pen in my hand like a sharp knife, each stroke severing my past. From this day forward, I have nothing. As I walked out of the courthouse, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. That relief was tinged with despair, yet also with a strange sense of liberation. I took out my cigarette case, lit a cigarette, and this time I didn't hold back, taking deep drags. I don't know where to go now. I don't want to go home. The company is gone. I've become a rootless duckweed. I drove there, almost unconsciously, until I arrived at the building where Wu Shuyao worked. She was a project director at a brand public relations firm, very capable, and earned a good income. I used to think of her as my strongest support. Now, it all seems like a joke. I parked my car and glanced up in the direction of her office. It was on the 20th floor, and through the glass curtain wall, I could vaguely see busy figures inside. She certainly didn't know that I was right downstairs, smoking, looking like a resentful, abandoned woman. I laughed self-deprecatingly. What kind of bitter woman am I? I'm just a man betrayed by his wife. Just as I was about to start my car and leave, I saw a white Porsche pull up in front of her company. The window rolled down, and a young, handsome face appeared. It was her ex-boyfriend, Lu Ming. Lu Ming is 3 years younger than Wu Shuyao, has a sunny disposition, and is a rich second generation. When Wu Shuyao broke up with him and chose me without hesitation, I was deeply moved. Looking back now, I was naive. I saw Lu Ming get out of the car and walk straight towards the company gate. Not long after, Wu Shuyao came out. She had a smile on her face I'd never seen before, charming and radiant. She took Lu Ming's arm, and the two chatted and laughed as they got into the car. At that moment, my heart felt as if it had been struck hard by a heavy hammer, not because of jealousy, but because of those disgusting truths. 8 million, that was her plan. It turned out her plan was to support a gigolo. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, my knuckles turning white from the force. I didn't chase after them, but silently followed behind Lu Ming's Porsche. I wanted to see where they were going. Lu Ming drove his Porsche very steadily, quickly leaving the city center and heading towards a villa area in the suburbs. I recognized Fenglinwen Villa area. It was one of the most upscale villa areas in the city, where villas easily cost tens of millions of yuan. Lu Ming parked the car in front of a villa. Wu Shuyao got out of the passenger seat, took his arm, and the two walked into the villa chatting and laughing. The security camera at the villa's entrance clearly recorded this scene. My breathing became heavy, my chest heaving. I stared intently at the villa, with only one thought in my mind: go inside. Go inside and tear those two scoundrels to shreds. But I didn't. I simply started the car silently and drove away from the Maple Bay Villa area. Anger burned fiercely in my chest like a fire, but my expression remained as calm as a stagnant pool. I returned home, opened the door, and the living room was still empty. Wu Shuyao hadn't come back yet. I went straight into the study and turned on the computer. I needed to access the surveillance footage from the Maple Bay Villa complex to find out the property ownership information for that villa. I knew she was lying to me. She knew my company had gone bankrupt and I desperately needed money. But she showed no intention of helping me. I guess she might have spent the money elsewhere. But I never expected that she would spend it on Lu Ming and even buy him a villa. A storm raged within me, a surge of immense anger and shame engulfing me. I felt as if the blood in my body was running backwards. Using some methods, I quickly found the property ownership information for the villa where Lu Ming lived. Sure enough, Lu Ming's name was on the property certificate, and the date of the property transfer happened to be right after Wu Shuyao won the lottery. My fingers danced across the keyboard, each character carrying immense force. I searched bit by bit, piecing things together piece by piece. Soon, I found even more shocking information. The villa that Wu Shuyao bought for Lu Ming cost a total of 2 million yuan. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. I also found that during the same period, Lu Ming's account received several large transfers, totaling more than 1.5 million yuan. Wu Shuyao claimed that this money was her personal property and that she had her own plans for it. It turned out that her plans were to spend it on these young men. I clenched my fists so tightly that my nails dug into my palms, leaving deep crescent-shaped marks. My breathing became rapid, and it felt like a huge rock was pressing on my chest. I returned to the bedroom, But Wu Shuyao still hadn't come back. I didn't sleep. I just sat quietly on the edge of the bed, waiting, waiting for her to return, waiting for me to tear off her mask of pretense. I don't know how much time passed before I heard the sound of a key unlocking the door. Wu Shuyao had returned. She pushed open the door, saw me sitting on the edge of the bed, and seemed to pause for a moment in surprise. "Why aren't you asleep yet?" Her voice was a little hoarse, with a hint of fatigue. "I'll wait for you." I looked up and stared directly into her eyes. Her body stiffened slightly, and her eyes darted away. "What are you waiting for me for? Tell me how you managed to spend 2 million to buy Lu Ming a villa." I laughed, but it was a cold laugh. Her face turned deathly pale instantly, and she swayed, almost falling over. The expression on her face at that moment was absolutely priceless. Wu Shiyao's face was deathly pale, as if all the color had been drained from her body in an instant. She stood there, her lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. "What?" Speechless? My voice was icy, each word like a nail striking her heart. She tried to calm her breathing, her eyes darting around as she attempted to defend herself. "Tang Yang, what nonsense are you talking about? What villa? What 2 million? I don't understand what you're saying." "Don't you understand?" I pulled up the screenshots on my phone, including surveillance footage from the Maple Bay Villa area, the villa's property ownership information, and Lu Ming's bank transfer records. I handed the phone to her. The screen clearly showed all her betrayals. "Take a look for yourself. Make sure you understand it. And then tell me if you can understand it." Wu Shuyao's gaze fell on the phone screen. Her eyes widened for a moment, and her body trembled slightly when she saw the irrefutable evidence. All color drained from her face, and her lips pressed into a pale line. "No, it's impossible." Her voice was as weak as a mosquito's buzz, filled with despair. "Impossible?" I laughed, my laughter laced with sarcasm. "Wu Shuyao, do you think you've done this so discreetly? Do you think I, Tang Yang, am blind or stupid? Didn't you say you had no money? Didn't you say the company's affairs had nothing to do with you? Didn't you say you had plans for the 8 million? With each sentence I spoke, I took a step closer until she had nowhere left to retreat and her back pressed against the cold wall. "Is this your plan? To use 2 million of the 8 million to buy a villa for your little lover? And to transfer the remaining 1.5 million to his account as your pocket money?" I lowered my voice, as if it were a whisper from hell. Her eyes reddened, tears welling up, but she stubbornly held them back. Her lips moved a few times, but she finally managed to squeeze out only one sentence. "Tang Yang, let me explain." "An explanation?" I interrupted her. "What else do you have to explain? Explain why you'd rather watch my company go bankrupt and my family be ruined than give money to your mistress?" Lu Ming. She wanted to say something, but was frightened by the cold light in my eyes and couldn't continue. "What's wrong with Lu Ming? Is he better to you than I am? Is he more sincere to you than I am? Does he love you more than I do?" I dug my nails into my palms, leaving deep crescent-shaped marks. My chest heaved violently, my anger like a volcano, ready to erupt at any moment. She lowered her head, her eyelashes sticking together wetly, looking like a flower about to wither, as if all her strength had been drained from her body. "Wu Shuyao, let's get a divorce." The words came out of my mouth with an inexplicable calm. I knew that when I said those words, it was completely over between us. She jerked her head up, her eyes filled with terror and disbelief. "Divorce? Tang Yang, are you sure?" "I'm sure," I said without hesitation. "You want to divorce me just because the company went bankrupt? Do you think you can change everything by getting a divorce?" She cried out hysterically, as if grasping at a last straw. "No, I'm not getting a divorce because the company went bankrupt." I looked into her eyes and said, word by word, "I'm getting a divorce because you cheated on me, because of your cold-bloodedness, and even more so because you destroyed all my trust in marriage with your own hands." She staggered back 2 steps and fell to the ground with a thud. Tears finally welled up in her eyes and streamed down her face like a broken string of pearls. "Tang Yang, you can't do this to me. I was just out of my mind. I promise I won't do it again." She cried and begged me for mercy, reaching out to grab my trouser leg. I avoided her hand and looked at her coldly. "It's too late." My voice was eerily calm. "From the moment you chose to watch me go bankrupt and gave the money to Lu Ming, there was no going back. I'm telling you this not to seek your sympathy. I just want you to know that everything you once had will be destroyed by your own hands." I looked down at her, my eyes devoid of any pity. She looked up, her face streaked with tears, filled with despair and regret. But all of this was too late for me. Tomorrow morning, we'll go through the divorce proceedings. I'll announce the company's bankruptcy and our divorce to the public. As for the evidence of your infidelity, I'll keep it safe. If you dare to cause trouble, I won't hesitate to completely ruin your reputation. My tone was cold and devoid of any emotion. After saying that, I stopped looking at her, pushed open the bedroom door, and left without looking back. I didn't see it, but the moment I closed the door, Wu Shuyao curled up on the floor, crying her heart out. The next day, we went through the divorce proceedings at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Throughout the entire process, Wu Shuyao remained silent, simply signing her name on every document. Her eyes were red and swollen, and her face looked haggard. As I was leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, she suddenly called out to me, "Tang Yong." Her voice was a little hoarse. I stopped walking, but I didn't turn around. "You really don't love me at all anymore?" Her voice held a hint of pleading. "Our 5 years of marriage. Marital affection?" I turned around and looked at her. My eyes icy. "The moment you chose to give 8 million to Lu Ming, there was no affection left between us. You can go now," I said calmly. She shuddered, as if a bucket of ice water had been poured over her head. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but ultimately remained silent. She wiped away her tears, turned, and left. Her retreating figure looked so lonely in the sunlight. I watched her retreating figure, feeling no emotion whatsoever, only tranquility. After the divorce, I announced that the company was bankrupt and that Wu Shuyao and I had parted ways amicably. I did not mention the truth about her infidelity, nor did I mention the 8 million lottery ticket. As soon as the news broke, all my friends came to check on me. Brotherly, my good friend from college, transferred 500,000 yuan to me without hesitation after learning that my company had gone bankrupt. "Tang Yong, don't lose heart. With your buddies here, you won't fall." Brother Li's voice was firm on the phone. I hung up the phone and looked at the message on my screen. 500,000 for my current situation. It was undoubtedly a godsend. My eyes welled up with tears, not from sadness, but from gratitude. At least, I wasn't alone. I didn't choose to give up completely. I still have Brother Li. I'm still young, and I still have the courage to start over. I rented a small office and re-registered a company. This time, I learned from my mistakes and stopped blindly expanding. Instead, I focused on a niche market. I poured all my energy into my work. Those days were the darkest, yet also the most fulfilling period of my life. I worked until late every night, and when I was exhausted, I would take a nap at my desk, then continue when I woke up. I told myself that I couldn't give up. I had to succeed. 5 years have passed in the blink of an eye. In the past 5 years, I haven't contacted Wu Shuyao again, and she hasn't contacted me either. We're like two parallel lines, never to intersect again. Through my efforts, my company has gradually gotten on the right track. From just a few people at the beginning, it has grown to over 100. Our products have gone from being ignored to becoming industry leaders. Just yesterday, my company successfully went public. As I stood on the stage, looking at the familiar faces below, I was overwhelmed with emotion. 5 years later, I had finally done it. The celebration party was bustling with activity. I moved through the crowd, toasting and thanking everyone who had helped my company. I saw Brother Li, and he came over and patted me on the shoulder. "Well done, Tang Yong." His eyes were filled with pride. "Thank you, Brother Li." I sincerely thanked him. If it weren't for his helping hand back then, I might have really given up. "Haha, no need to thank me. With your perseverance, I knew you wouldn't give up," Brother Li said with a laugh. Just as we were talking, a commotion arose at the entrance of the reception. I looked in the direction of the sound and froze. Wu Shuyao actually showed up. She was wearing a black dress, her figure still very well maintained, and her face was covered in exquisite makeup. She was arm in arm with a man, none other than Lu Ming. The moment the two appeared, they attracted everyone's attention. After all, although I didn't make the sex scandal public, quite a few people in the industry knew about it. I saw a hint of smugness on Lu Ming's face, while Wu Shuyao looked completely indifferent, as if she had come here to prove something. My breathing became rapid, and my chest heaved. For the past 5 years, I had tried to let her go, but when she reappeared in front of me, I realized that I wasn't as carefree as I had imagined. I didn't go to meet them. I just stood there and watched them quietly. Lu Ming saw me, a hint of mockery flashing across his face. He put his arm around Wu Shuyao's waist, and the two of them walked up to me. Hey, isn't this President Tang? Congratulations on the company's IPO. Lu Ming's tone was sarcastic and blatantly provocative. I didn't say anything. I just stared at him coldly. Wu Shuyao's gaze fell on me. Her eyes filled with a complex mix of emotions. There was surprise, jealousy, and even a hint of regret. Tang Yang, I never thought you actually succeeded. She finally spoke, her voice a little hoarse. A cold smile curled at the corner of my lips. Thanks to you. How have you been these past 5 years? She asked, her tone tinged with caution. I didn't answer her question, but instead looked away from her face and turned my gaze to Lu Ming. Mr. Lu, it's been a long time. My tone was calm, but it made Lu Ming stiffen for a moment. Yes, it's been a long time. Mr. Tang, you've done quite well these past few years, managing to turn things around. Lu Ming said these flattering words, but his tone was laced with disdain. He thought he had won. Wu Shuyao looked at Lu Ming and me, a hint of unease on her face. She seemed to want to say something, but didn't know how to begin. Just then, my phone vibrated. I picked it up and glanced at it. A text message was displayed on the screen. The content of the message made the corners of my mouth slowly turn up. I looked up at Wu Shuyao and Lu Ming, a hint of amusement in my eyes. Mr. Lu, didn't Wu Shuyao tell you that the villa you live in isn't actually yours? I said with a smile, my voice not loud, but clearly reaching their ears. Lu Ming's expression froze instantly. Lu Ming's face turned deathly pale instantly. He abruptly released Wu Shuyao's waist, his body stiff as a log. His gaze darted back and forth between me and Wu Shuyao, his eyes filled with terror and disbelief. Wu Shuyao swayed slightly. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She looked at me with despair in her eyes, as if I had torn all her secrets apart. The entire party fell silent instantly because of my words. All eyes were on the three of us. A tense atmosphere filled the air. What nonsense are you spouting? Lu Ming managed to squeeze out a sentence, his voice trembling. He tried to appear calm, but fine beads of sweat were clearly visible on his forehead. I looked at him, my eyes cold and mocking. Nonsense? Lu Ming, do you think you're so clever at living off a woman? Do you think the villa Wu Shuyao bought for you is really yours? I took out my phone and opened a photo. It was an equity transfer agreement, clearly stating in black and white. The ownership of Villa Number 3 in the Maple Bay Villa District had been secretly transferred to a trust company under my name before my divorce from Wu Shuyao. For 5 years, Lu Ming only had the right to use the property, but could not sell or mortgage it. Now, the trust period has expired, and the ownership of the villa will officially revert to my name. I turned the phone screen towards Lu Ming. After he saw what it said, he swayed and almost fell over. No, this is impossible. His voice was shrill, his expression almost distorted. Nothing is impossible. I sneered. Do you really think Wu Shuyao would be stupid enough to transfer a $2 million villa directly to you for your sake? Wu Shuyao's face was beyond pale. It was practically ashen. She looked at me in disbelief, then at Lu Ming, her body seemingly drained of all strength, and she leaned limply against him. Shuyao, this isn't real, is it? Lu Ming grabbed Wu Shuyao's arm, his voice trembling as he asked. Wu Shuyao didn't speak, but silently lowered her head, tears welling up in her eyes again. Her silence was tantamount to acquiescence. 5 years ago, you won the lottery with 8 million, but you refused to give me 600,000, watching my company go bankrupt. Instead, you gave your mistress Lu Ming 2 million to buy her a villa and transferred another 1,500,000 to her. My voice wasn't loud, but it was enough for everyone around me to hear clearly. Whispers began to circulate among the crowd. Those who had once envied Wu Shuyao's good fortune now looked at her with disdain and contempt. I admit, I really hated you back then. I hated your heartlessness and betrayal of our marriage. I looked at Wu Shuyao, my eyes devoid of any warmth. But I, Tang Yang, am not one to be trifled with. I won't give away my hard-earned money to a gigolo. That villa, from beginning to end, was a huge trap I set for Lu Ming. I lured him in and let him enjoy 5 years of false wealth. Now, it's time to close the net. I gave a cold smile. Lu Ming froze, then shoved Wu Shuyao away, pointing at her and yelling, Wu Shuyao, you bitch. You lied to me. Wu Shuyao was pushed to the ground by him. She sat there in a disheveled state, looking up at Lu Ming with eyes filled with pain and despair. She never expected Lu Ming to treat her like this. Lu Ming? You're lying? I sneered. Lu Ming, from beginning to end, you're the one who's been lied to. Wu Shuyao only used you as a tool to get revenge on me. Do you really think she loves you? No, I love you. Shuyao, tell me this isn't true. Lu Ming turned around, grabbed Wu Shuyao's shoulders, and shook her violently. Wu Shuyao was shaken until she felt dizzy. Suddenly, she raised her hand and slapped Lu Ming hard across the face. Lu Ming was stunned for a moment. He covered his face and looked at Wu Shuyao in disbelief. Lu Ming, you bastard. What kind of man are you? Compared to Tang Yang, you're not even worthy of carrying his shoes. Wu Shuyao roared. She stood up and slapped Lu Ming on the other side of his face. Snap. Another crisp sound. You used to say you loved me and would take care of me for the rest of your life. But what happened? Now that I'm down on my luck, is this how you treat me? Wu Shuyao's tears streamed down her face like a broken string of pearls. I just… Lu Ming covered his face, speechless for a moment. Just what? Just that you think I'm no longer of any use? Wu Shuyao sneered, her eyes filled with mockery. Let me tell you, Lu Ming, you're a complete and utter piece of trash. The party erupted in uproar. No one had expected things to turn out this way. Wu Shuyao had actually slapped Lu Ming twice in front of everyone, completely severing their relationship. As I watched this scene unfold, I was filled with mixed emotions. I hadn't expected Wu Shuyao to erupt like this. Her hatred for Lu Ming seemed to run even deeper than my hatred for her back then. Tang Yang. Wu Shuyao turned her head sharply to look at me. Her eyes were bloodshot, and her gaze held a hint of despair, but also a hint of relief. You won. I looked at her, saying nothing. My heart, at that moment, was as still as a stagnant pool. I no longer felt hatred, only a nameless sorrow. Sorrow for her, and sorrow for my past self. Lu Ming, from today onwards, get out of that villa, and that 1.5 million you took from me. I will hire a lawyer and get it all back. Not a penny less. Wu Shuyao pointed at Lu Ming, her tone icy and ruthless. Lu Ming stood there, frozen, staring at Wu Shuyao with shock in his eyes. He hadn't expected Wu Shuyao to treat him like this. You actually did this to me? Lu Ming asked, his voice trembling. Stop talking. Wu Shuyao interrupted him, turning to look at me with a complex expression. Tang Yang, the villa is back to you. I was truly blind back then. I looked at her, but didn't say anything. I had nothing left to say to her. I turned to my friends, raised my glass, and said, thank you all for coming tonight. The company's IPO is just the beginning for me. The road ahead is still long. My friends clapped and cheered for me. Their faces were all filled with genuine smiles. I glanced at Wu Shuyao and Lu Ming. Wu Shuyao was still standing there, staring blankly ahead, like a puppet that had lost its soul. Lu Ming, on the other hand, had already quietly left. I sighed inwardly. Childhood sweethearts, husband and wife. In the end, it all came to this. I raised my glass and downed it in one gulp. Everything from the past vanished with that glass of wine. The party ended late at night. I returned home, sat on the sofa, and looked out the window at the myriad lights of the city, feeling an indescribable peace. Everything from the past 5 years flashed through my mind like scenes from a movie. From the company's collapse, to Wu Shuyao's betrayal, to my recovery, and the company's IPO. Every step was incredibly difficult. I picked up my phone and sent a message to Brotherly. Brotherly, I'd like to treat you and the company's core team to dinner tomorrow to properly thank everyone. Brotherly quickly replied, no problem. You've finally made something of yourself. I smiled and put down my phone. Just then, a WeChat message popped up on my phone screen. It was from Wu Shuyao. Tang Yang, I know you must hate me right now, but I just want to tell you that I haven't had a good time these past few years. I stared at the message, my eyes devoid of any emotion, good or bad. What did it matter to me? The past was gone, like smoke in the wind. I didn't reply. A while later, she sent another message. Could you come out and see me? I want to tell you everything. I didn't reply. I didn't want to see her, nor did I want to hear her explanations. Those so-called explanations meant nothing to me anymore. I turned off my phone, got up, and walked to the window. The night breeze caressed my face, bringing a touch of coolness. I picked up the divorce certificate from the table. It was the certificate I received 5 years ago when Wu Shuyao and I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get divorced. I've kept it in a drawer ever since and never taken it out to look at it. I opened it and saw the two big words divorce on it. The heart-wrenching pain I felt back then was gone. Instead, there was a complete sense of letting go. Wu Shuyao. It's completely over between us. The next morning, I woke up feeling refreshed. After washing up, I put on a clean shirt, suit, and tie. I looked confident and energetic. I went downstairs, and breakfast was already prepared. The nanny greeted me warmly when she saw me come down. "Mr. Tang, you look so radiant. Today must be another energetic day for you," the auntie said with a smile. I smiled and said, "Yes, it's a very energetic day." After breakfast, I went out and drove to the company. On the way, I received a call from my lawyer. "Mr. Tang, the property rights of the villa you entrusted have been officially transferred to your name. We have also frozen the 1.5 million yuan in Lu Ming's account. If he doesn't repay it, we will immediately initiate legal proceedings." The lawyer's voice was respectful and professional. "Yes, I understand. Thank you, Attorney Wang," I said calmly. "I've handed everything over to my lawyers. I won't waste any more energy on Lu Ming and Wu Shuyao." I arrived at the company and walked into my office. My assistant, Xiao Wang, had already arranged the day's schedule. "Mr. Tang, these are the documents that require your approval today." Xiao Wang placed a stack of documents on my desk. I picked up the documents and began to review them carefully. My company was on the right track. In the future, I would lead it to even greater heights. My phone rang again while I was at work. It was my mother. "Xiaoyang, how have you been lately? Mom saw the news and said your company went public." "That's wonderful." The mother's voice was filled with obvious pride and joy. "Mom, I'm fine. How are you and Dad?" I asked gently. "We're all doing well. Your dad praises you every day at home. By the way, when are you going to bring a girlfriend home? You're not getting any younger. It's time to find a partner." My mother started worrying about my personal life again. I smiled and said, "Mom, my career is just starting out. I don't have time to think about these things yet." "Silly child. No matter how important your career is, you can't let it interfere with your personal life," the mother said with a hint of regret. "Mom, I will. Once I'm done with this busy period, I'll definitely bring you a good daughter-in-law." I comforted my mother. After hanging up the phone, a warm feeling welled up inside me. My family will always be my strongest support. I continued working, putting all my energy into my job. Around noon, I received a phone call. It was from Wu Shuyao's best friend, Zhang Lin. "Tang Yang, this is Zhang Lin." Her voice was hesitant. "Wu Shuyao, she's not doing well right now." I didn't say anything. I just listened quietly. She was swindled out of all her money by that bastard Lu Ming and has now been kicked out of the villa. She begged Lu Ming to return the money, but he ignored her and even threatened her. She is now homeless and can only live in a rented room." Zhang Lin's voice carried a hint of sympathy. A barely perceptible, cold smile curled at the corner of my lips. She brought this on herself. She also told me that she never intended to keep the 8 million for herself back then. She said she only treated you that way because she was angry with you. She said she thought that if she taught you a lesson, you would come back to her. Zhang Lin continued. "She said that the beneficiary of the insurance she bought for you back then was you. She said she never thought that you would actually divorce her." I sneered inwardly. She was trying to spite me back then? I was the beneficiary of the insurance policy? Those are just excuses she uses to absolve herself. Tang Yang, she really regrets it. She knows she was wrong now, and she's begging you. Can you give her another chance? Zhang Lin's tone was pleading. "It's too late," I said calmly. "Tang Yang." Zhang Lin wanted to say something, but I interrupted her. "Zhang Lin, thank you for telling me all this, but I have nothing to do with Wu Shuyao anymore. Her affairs are none of my business." My tone was firm and unquestionable. After saying that, I hung up the phone. I will never give Wu Shuyao another chance. The past is history. A new chapter has begun in my life. I picked up the documents on the table, my eyes resolute. I, Tang Yang, will have a better future. Welcome to the second story. When Su Wanqing threw the resignation agreement in front of Shen Duo, the meeting room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. The group's CFO, HR director, and her newly promoted male secretary, Zhou Mingyuan, all stood behind her, like a silent wall. "Sign it." Su Wanqing's voice was as cold as ice. "The year-end bonus issuance here. You resigned voluntarily. The company is giving you the last shred of dignity. Shinduo looked at the few thin pages of paper on the table. Then he looked up at Zhou Mingyuan, the young man who, 3 days ago, used his authorization code to withdraw 7.038.600 yuan of year-end bonus from the financial system. At this moment, Zhou Mingyuan had his eyes downcast, but a barely perceptible smile was playing on his lips. 7,300,000. He led his team to successfully complete the Smart Cloud Port project, sleeping only 4 hours a day for 4 consecutive months, which earned him a year-end bonus. Now, it has become a bargaining chip for his wife to force him to back down. President Su is betting you'll compromise. Zhou Mingyuan suddenly spoke softly, with just the right amount of respect. Director Shun, don't be stubborn. Sign it, and we can all part ways amicably. Shinduo's gaze shifted from the agreement to Su Wanqing's face. The face he had loved for 8 years and been married to for 3 years now held only a businesslike indifference and a hint of impatient certainty. She bet he would eventually give in, just like in every previous argument. I bet he can't bear to give up this marriage, this job, or everything he's built up over the years. Shinduo picked up his pen. A faint hint of relaxation flashed across Su Wanqing's eyes. Then, she saw Shinduo turn to the last page of the agreement and neatly sign his name in the signature column. The sound of the pen nib slicing across the paper was jarringly clear in the silent conference room. Signed. Shinduo closed his pen and gently pushed the agreement back in front of Su Wanqing. As you wish. His voice was calm. Su Wanqing's confident expression froze instantly. She looked at the signed agreement, then suddenly looked up at Shinduo, her pupils contracting sharply. You. The usually aloof and composed group president swallowed hard, his fingertips unconsciously curling up. She panicked. 7 days ago was the day the year-end bonuses were distributed. Shinduo worked overtime in the technology department until 9 p.m. and finally submitted the final version of the test report for the Smart Cloud Port project. The Digital Port Project, a key project introduced by the city, faced competition from 2 of China's top technology giants. Su Wanqing's Qiming technology won the bid thanks to the intelligent scheduling system developed by Shinduo's team, which far exceeded the requirements of the tender documents. For 4 consecutive months, the technology department practically lived at the company. As the technical director, Shinduo shouldered the heaviest pressure. Several times at 3 in the morning, Su Wanqing could still see the lights on in the technical area and Shinduo's back as he faced the screen when she came out of the president's office. She would bring him a cup of hot milk, place it beside him, and whisper, "Don't work too hard." Shinduo would look up at her and smile, his eyes bloodshot but burning bright. "I promised you. This project must be completed." Those were rare moments of tenderness between them. 3 years into their marriage, Su Wanqing's Qiming technology grew from a startup to a Series B funding round, with its valuation increasing several dozen times. Shinduo, who had jumped ship from a large company, rose from core engineer to technical director, becoming her most capable assistant. However, the rift between the two deepened as the company grew larger. What Su Wanqing wants is an ever-expanding business empire, recognition from the capital market, and to become an industry unicorn. Shinduo's goal is to solidify the technology and refine the products to perfection, while always remaining wary of blind expansion and excessive marketing. We've argued about this many times. Each time, it ended with Shinduo's silence and concession. He loves her. He loved that girl from back then, standing in the coffee shop, holding her business plan, her eyes sparkling as she told him, "I want to change this industry." Therefore, he was willing to use his skills to support her dream, even though her dream gradually became unfamiliar to him. At 9:30 p.m., Shinduo turned off his computer and rubbed his throbbing temples. My phone vibrated. Bank SMS. He swiped the screen, expecting to see the promised generous year-end bonus notification. However, your Industrial and Commercial Bank of China account ending in 8877 completed a transfer transaction at 2129 on December 28th, amounting to 7.038.600.00, leaving a balance of 326.18. Shinduo stared at the line of numbers, stunned for 2 seconds. -7,300,000? Wrong. This is not an inflow. It's an outflow. He immediately logged into his mobile banking app to check the details. The transfer summary reads, Year-end bonus distribution. Recipient's account name, Zhou Mingyuan. Shenduo's brows furrowed suddenly. Zhou Mingyuan was Su Wanqing's new president's secretary. Hired 3 months ago, he was 26 years old, a graduate of a prestigious overseas university. Handsome and efficient, Su Wanqing admired him greatly and praised him by name several times in high-level meetings, saying that he was energetic and adaptable. Shenduo didn't have a particular impression of this young man, only that the way he looked at Su Wanqing was sometimes too eager. But now, his year-end bonus has been transferred into Zhou Mingyuan's account, 7,300,000. This is definitely not a mistake. Shenduo picked up his phone and dialed Su Wanqing's number directly. It rang 7 or 8 times before it was answered. The background noise was somewhat loud, like it was coming from a restaurant or club. What is it? Su Wanqing's voice came through, tinged with displeasure at being disturbed. My year-end bonus, Shenduo said, suppressing his emotions. What happened? Why was it transferred to Zhou Mingyuan's account? There was a few seconds of silence on the other end of the phone. Then, Su Wanqing's voice was calm and even. Oh, about that. The company's cash flow has been a bit tight lately. Your year-end bonus is quite large. So Mingyuan will collect it on your behalf and transfer it to you in a few days. Collection on behalf of someone? Shenduo laughed angrily. Su Wanqing, this is over 7 million, not 700 yuan. What reason is there to need a secretary to collect on your behalf? Is the company's financial system just for show? Shenduo, watch your attitude. Su Wanqing's tone turned cold. I'm the company president. I have the authority to decide on fund allocation. Mingyuan is someone I trust. Just hold on to him for now. Is there a problem? The problem is. I disagree. Shenduo said, word by word. Now, immediately, have the finance department transfer this money back to my account. Or, have Zhou Mingyuan transfer it to me right now. I'm out discussing business right now. I don't have time to deal with this. Su Wanqing was clearly impatient. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Shenduo, don't make a mountain out of a molehill. Do you think Mingyuan would steal your money? After saying that, he hung up the phone without waiting for Shenduo's response. A busy signal came through. Holding his phone, Shenduo stood in the empty technical department office, feeling a chill creep up from the soles of his feet. This is not making a mountain out of a molehill. This is blatant encroachment. His wife, the company's president, was protecting the person who carried out the embezzlement. He sat back down at his workstation, turned on his computer, and pulled up the back-end logs of the company's financial system. As the technical director, he had the highest level of access. The query records show. At 16:47 this afternoon, he logged into the year-end bonus distribution module of the financial system using his employee ID authorization code. Operation instructions: change the receiving account for Shenduo's year-end bonus of 7.038.600 yuan in the technology department to Zhou Mingyuan's personal bank account. The IP address being operated on originated from the CEO's office. His authorization code was known only to him and Su Wanqing. Shenduo closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When I opened my eyes again, all that remained was a cold, desolate look. He closed the log page, leaving no trace of the query. Then, he picked up his phone and did 3 things. First, turn on the call recording function. Second, call the bank's customer service and request to obtain detailed receipts and authorization records for this transfer. Third, open WeChat and find the profile picture of that person you haven't contacted in a long time, his college roommate, who is now a partner at a top law firm. Hey Zhao, I have a question. If a company transfers a large sum of an employee's bonus to a third party without their consent, what kind of legal action is that? What evidence do I need to prepare? After sending the message, Shenduo leaned back in his chair and looked out at the city's neon lights. Su Wanqing, what exactly do you want to do? The next morning, as soon as Shenduo arrived at the company, Su Wanqing called him into the president's office. Zhou Mingyuan was also there. He stood behind Su Wanqing's desk, wearing a well-fitting suit and with his hair neatly combed. When he saw Shenduo come in, he smiled and nodded. Good morning, Director Shen. His posture was impeccable, as if the 7 million incident from yesterday had never happened. Su Wanqing sat in the large executive chair, several documents spread out in front of her. She didn't look up, but simply said, "Sit." Shinduo sat down opposite her. Regarding the year-end bonus, Su Wanqing finally looked up at him calmly and said, "I thought about it last night and realized that I didn't handle it properly." Shinduo didn't speak, waiting for her to continue. But the money has already been transferred to Mingyuan. Having the finance department process it again would be cumbersome and have a negative impact. Su Wanqing softened her tone, adopting a rare tone of negotiation. "Mingyuan, transfer the money back to Director Shin now." Zhou Mingyuan immediately responded, "Okay." President Su. He took out his phone, made a few gestures, and then looked up at Shin Duo with a smile. "Director Shun, I've transferred the money to you. It might arrive in your account shortly." Shin Duo's phone vibrated. Bank SMS. Your Industrial and Commercial Bank of China account ending in 8877 received a transfer of 7.038.600.00 at 9:15 on December 29th, leaving a balance of 7.038.926.18. The money has been returned. But Shin Duo's mind was even more on edge. Everything went too smoothly. It went so smoothly, it was abnormal. Sure enough, Su Wanqing continued, "You received the money. But Shin Duo, there's something I need to discuss with you." She leaned forward, her hands clasped on the table, a gesture of negotiation. The company plans to launch its Series B plus funding round next year, and investors place great importance on the stability of the core team. In particular, the technical lead cannot be involved in any negative public relations or legal risks. Shinduo looked at her. "So? Therefore, although your year-end bonus is nominally yours, for the sake of the company's overall interests, it's best if the company manages this money centrally." Su Wanqing's explanation was watertight. "What I mean is, don't touch the money yet. Put it in a joint account. It will be returned to you after the financing is completed." Shinduo almost burst out laughing. "Unified management? Jointly managed account?" He repeated these two phrases. "Su Wanqing, this is my wages, not company assets. What right do you have to manage my personal property? Just because I'm the company president and you're an employee." Su Wanqing's face darkened. "Shinduo, don't forget, you received such a large year-end bonus because the company provided you with a platform and resources. Now that the company needs your cooperation, this is your attitude? What I need to cooperate with is work." Shinduo's insistence on not giving an inch is not about handing over personal assets to the company for safekeeping. These are two different things. What if I told you this was a necessary condition for financing? Su Wanqing stared at him. The investors specifically requested that the personal assets of core executives not have any unusual changes. Shinduo, 7 million is not a small amount. What will the investors think if you suddenly withdraw it? That's the investors' problem, not mine. Shinduo stood up. "It's my money. I have the right to use it. If there's nothing else, I'll go back to work." "Shinduo." Su Wanqing suddenly raised her voice. Shinduo stopped and turned to look at her. Su Wanqing's chest heaved a few times, as if she was suppressing her anger. After a while, she waved her hand and said wearily, "You can go out now." Shinduo turned and left. The moment the door closed, he heard Su Wanqing's hushed voice from inside. "He's not buying it. Let's prepare for the second plan." Zhou Mingyuan responded respectfully, "Yes, President Su, I understand." Shinduo didn't stop walking and went straight back to the technical department. He turned on his computer and logged into an encrypted cloud drive. Several files are already stored inside. The recording from the bank's customer service last night confirmed that transfers require dual verification and cannot be performed unilaterally. In his WeChat reply, Attorney Zhao clearly stated that the company's unauthorized change of the salary payment account constituted suspected embezzlement, and that if the evidence was conclusive, a criminal report could be filed. And he had just recorded the entire conversation in the CEO's office, his phone secretly in his pocket. Shinduo dragged the new recording into the cloud drive. Then, he sent Lao Zhao a message. "The situation has escalated. They want to freeze my bonus under the guise of company management. Is there any way to retaliate?" Old Zhao quickly replied, "The key is evidence. They dared to do this because they must have a backup plan. Be careful lately. Don't sign any written documents, especially those related to money, equity, or changes in your position. Also, check the equity structure of your wife's company for any unusual changes." Shinduo felt a chill run down his spine. Equity. He immediately logged into the Enterprise Credit Information Disclosure System to check the latest shareholder information of Qiming Technology. The result displayed on the screen left his fingers frozen on the mouse. In the shareholder list, Su Wanqing's shareholding ratio has changed from 62% to 51%. A new shareholder has been added, Zhou Mingyuan, holding 11% of the shares. The date of the subscribed capital contribution was 3 days ago. Shen Duo stared at the name and number, a chilling rage spreading from his heart to every part of his body. He understood. That 7 million was not a mistaken transfer or entrusted management at all. It was a premeditated acquisition of equity. He used his year-end bonus to buy shares for Zhou Mingyuan. Su Wanqing, his wife, was the mastermind behind this transaction. Shen Duo did not immediately confront Su Wanqing. He closed the webpage and continued working as if nothing had happened. In the afternoon, the technical department held a project debriefing meeting. As Shen Duo was explaining several technical highlights of the smart cloud port system, the conference room door was pushed open. Su Wanqing led Zhou Mingyuan in. The technical staff immediately stopped their discussion and greeted him. General Manager Su. Su Wanqing nodded, signaling everyone to continue. She and Zhou Mingyuan sat down at the end of the conference table, adopting an observer's posture. Shen Duo remained expressionless and continued speaking. After the meeting ended, Su Wanqing called out to everyone. Since all my colleagues from the technology department were there, I announced the personnel changes. She stood up, her gaze sweeping across the room. Starting next January, Zhou Mingyuan will concurrently serve as the Deputy General Manager of the Technology Department, assisting Director Shun in departmental management and focusing on the follow-up operation of the Smart Cloud Port project. The meeting room was silent. The key members of the technical department looked at each other, their eyes filled with astonishment. Zhou Mingyuan is the president's secretary and knows nothing about technology. How did he get parachuted in as the deputy director of the technology department and even assist in management? This is clearly a move to decentralize power, monitor, and even replace Shen Duo. Shen Duo sat in the main seat, tapping his fingers lightly on the table. Without saying a word, Su Wanqing looked at him, her tone businesslike. Director Shun, Mingyuan is young, but he has a strong learning ability and management potential. Please mentor him and help him become familiar with the technical department's operations as soon as possible. Shen Duo looked up and met her gaze. The appointment of the deputy director of the technology department requires evaluation by the technology committee and my nomination. President Su, it seems this process hasn't been followed. Special circumstances require special handling. Su Wanqing said calmly. This is a strategic necessity for the company. Shen Duo, you must prioritize the overall situation. The big picture is that letting someone who doesn't understand technology manage the core technology department? Shen Duo's voice remained calm, but every word was like a nail. President Su, this will affect the project quality and harm the company's interests. I'll decide what's in the company's best interest. Su Wanqing's tone hardened. The appointment is finalized and will officially take effect next Monday. Meeting adjourned. She turned and left, with Zhou Mingyuan following closely behind. As he reached the door, Zhou Mingyuan turned back and gave Shen Duo an apologetic smile. Director Shun, please guide me in the future. Her smile was flawless, but there was a hint of condescending pity hidden in his eyes. Only the technical department staff remained in the conference room. Deputy Director Chen couldn't help but ask, Brother Chen, what does this mean? What technical skills does Zhou Mingyuan know? Isn't President Su just being reckless? The other key members echoed their sentiments. Filled with righteous indignation, Shen Duo raised his hand, stopping everyone's discussion. The appointment is a company decision. We execute it. He stood up, gathering his notebook. However, the core code and operational permissions for Smart Cloud Harbor involve trade secrets and national security standards. Not just anyone can touch them. Old Chen, you're responsible for reorganizing the permission levels. Anyone who doesn't meet security standards should not be authorized. Old Chen's eyes lit up. I understand. This was Shen Duo's first small counterattack. Without making a sound, they effectively blocked Zhou Mingyuan's possibility of truly getting involved in the core business. Without technical expertise, the title of deputy director is just an empty shell. After getting off work, Shen Duo did not work overtime. He drove to a quiet tea house in the west of the city. Old Zhao was already waiting in the private room. The two were roommates in college and were very close. After graduating, Lao Zhao joined a top-tier law firm and is now a partner specializing in commercial disputes and equity cases. Found it. Old Zhao pushed a document in front of Shen Duo. Your wife's company is indeed planning a Series B+ funding round, led by Huading Capital. But interestingly, Huading has a condition. The founding team must hold no less than 70% of the shares, and core executives cannot be at risk of marital changes. Shen Duo flipped through the documents, his gaze falling on that particular clause. Risks associated with marital changes? To put it bluntly, the concern is that a divorce by the founders could lead to a division of shares and affect control of the company. Old Zhao tapped the table. Your wife currently holds 51% of the shares. Although you don't own any shares, you are husband and wife. If you divorce, you have the right to a share of the marital property, including any increase in her share value. This will further dilute her shareholding, potentially causing it to fall below 50%, resulting in a loss of absolute control. Shen Duo understood. So, she wants to dilute my potential rights before I take away her shares? Not just that. Old Zhao shook his head. She used your year-end bonus to increase Zhou Mingyuan's shareholding, giving him an 11% stake. This move is insidious. First, she used your money to stabilize her own equity. Zhou Mingyuan is clearly her man, and that 11% voting power will most likely follow her. Second, if you divorce in the future and you claim a share division, she can argue that this portion of the equity has already been transferred, and the transfer payment has already compensated you. Third, Zhou Mingyuan has joined the technical department and can gradually replace you. Once your value is completely exploited, she can kick you out without any burden. Old Zhao looked at Shen Duo and sighed. Brother, your wife is trying to precisely eliminate you. She'll keep control of the company, kick you out, and use your money to cultivate her own cronies. A triple win. Shen Duo silently drank his tea. The tea was very hot, but as it went down my throat, it couldn't warm the coldness in my heart. What should I do now? Two paths. Old Zhao held up two fingers. First, a negotiated divorce, to try and get reasonable compensation before she fully sets her plans. But given her current methods, he doubted he'd get much easily. Second, a counterattack. Old Zhao leaned forward, his eyes sharp. Didn't she use your money to buy shares for Zhou Mingyuan? Then let's confirm her embezzlement and withdrawal of capital. Aren't you the CTO? Check her company's financial system, cash flow, and the entire electronic record of equity changes. This kind of operation can't be done without leaving a trace. As long as the chain of evidence is complete, you can file a criminal report, seek civil compensation, and even report it to the investors. At that point, forget about the Series B+ funding round. Her existing shareholders will be furious. Shen Duo put down his teacup. I choose option 2. Old Zhao laughed. I knew you wouldn't back down. Just let me know if you need any support. As for the evidence, I'll handle that. It was already dark when we left the tea house. Shen Duo sat in the car, not starting it immediately. He took out his phone and opened his WeChat chat with Su Wanqing. The last time they spoke was 3 days ago, when she asked him if he was coming home for dinner that night. He replied, I'm working overtime. You guys eat first. She replied with an Scrolling back further, most of the conversations are brief exchanges about everyday life. It's been a long time since we've talked about dreams, the future, or love. Shen Duo closed his eyes and put away his phone. I started the car and drove into the night. During the New Year's Day holiday, Su Wanqing said she was going to take her mother to Hainan for vacation. The company's been busy lately, so I'm taking mom to relax. You should also get some rest for a few days, she said to Shen Duo as she packed her bags, her tone unusually gentle. Shen Duo sat on the sofa, watching the boring rerun of a variety show on TV, and hummed in agreement. Be more understanding of Zhou Mingyuan. Su Wanqing paused, as if mentioning it casually. He's young and energetic, and may not be very mature in his methods, but he has good intentions and genuinely cares about the company. Shen Duo did not respond. Su Wanqing zipped up her suitcase and walked up to him. Shen Duo, we've been married for 3 years. She looked at him, her eyes filled with complex emotions. I know you think I've changed, that I only care about the company and profits. But you have to understand, Chiming technology hasn't come this far. So many eyes are watching. We can't afford to make a single mistake. I'm under a lot of pressure. Shinduo finally looked up. So, the pressure is so great that you need to divert my year-end bonus to buy shares for your secretary? Su Wanqing's expression changed drastically. What nonsense are you talking about? Zhou Mingyuan holds 11% of the shares, with his subscribed capital contribution date being December 26th, and the amount contributing exactly 7.038.600. Shinduo's voice was calm, as if stating an objective fact. Su Wanqing, my year-end bonus was transferred to him on December 28th. The time and amount match up. Should I show you the bank statements and business registration change records? Su Wanqing's breathing became rapid. She stared at Shinduo, her eyes quickly shifting from panic to icy coldness. You're investigating me? I'm just protecting my legal rights. Shinduo stood up, looking down at her. Su Wanqing, I gave you a chance. The money was returned, and that was the end of it. But you insisted on forcing me. I forced you? Su Wanqing suddenly laughed, a mocking smile on her face. Shinduo, what makes you think you deserve a 7 million year-end bonus? Without the platform I gave you, without Chiming technology, you'd just be a senior engineer at a big company, barely making $1 million a year. How much of that 7 million was given to you by me? Now the company needs it, so you're contributing it. What's wrong with that? Contribution? Shinduo repeated the word, finding it utterly absurd. So, the fruits of my labor have become your charity? You can take them away at will whenever you need them to pave the way for your cronies? Zhou Mingyuan is the talent the company needs for the future. Giving him shares is to retain him and for the company's development. Su Wanqing raised her voice. Shinduo, can you stop being so selfish? Can't you think a little longer? Who's the selfish one? Shinduo took a step closer, her gaze sharp as a knife. Using her husband's money to buy shares for her young male secretary, and then putting him in the department her husband managed, intending to replace him. Su Wanqing, your scheme is so well planned. I could hear it all from the technical department. You. Su Wanqing's face turned pale with anger, and she raised her hand. Shinduo grabbed her wrist. The force wasn't strong, but it was enough to immobilize her. Wanna hit me? Shinduo looked at her, the last bit of warmth in his eyes vanishing. Su Wanqing, this is the end between us. He let go. Su Wanqing staggered back a step and steadied herself by holding onto her suitcase. Her chest heaved violently as she looked at Shinduo with the eyes of someone looking at a stranger. Fine, fine. She nodded repeatedly, her voice trembling. Shinduo, you insist on tearing off the mask, don't you? Fine, I'll grant your wish. She picked up her suitcase, turned around, and walked towards the door. She walked to the door, then stopped, turned back to look at him, her eyes cold and resolute. Monday morning at 9 a.m. in the company's main conference room. We'll resolve this all at once. After saying that, he slammed the door and left. A tremendous sound echoed through the empty house. Shinduo stood still, motionless. After a long while, he walked to the window and watched Su Wanqing's car drive out of the community and disappear into the night. He took out his phone and sent a message to Lao Zhao. She's come clean. See you at the office on Monday. Then, he turned on his computer and logged into the company's server. As the technical director, he has the highest level of backend access. He began retrieving the data. Over the past 3 months, all system operation logs involving fund approvals, equity changes, and personnel appointments have been collected. The financial system records Zhou Mingyuan's account transactions, as well as the records of transactions between him and Su Wanqing's personal and company accounts. Even the surveillance footage archived in the CEO's office. Although the content may be periodically cleaned up, there may still be remnants at the server's underlying level. He also found something even more crucial. 3 months ago, Su Wanqing, under the pretext of optimizing the system, requested the technical department to install special screen recording software on the computer in the president's office, ostensibly to record important decision-making processes. At the time, Shinduo didn't think much of it and had his men install it. Now, he has found the storage path of that software. There are several encrypted video files inside. Shinduo attempted to crack the password using the highest level password. The progress bar is moving slowly. 10%, 30%, 70%. Byte. Decryption successful. Shinduo opened the latest video file. The date is December 25th, Christmas Day. In the scene, Su Wanqing is sitting behind the president's desk. Zhou Mingyuan stood beside her, leaning slightly forward, pointing at the screen with his finger. The two were very close. Su Wanqing's voice came from the speaker, crystal clear. Shinduo's year-end bonus, 7.03 million, will be transferred directly to your account through a special approval process. Then you can use this money to subscribe for an additional 11% of the shares. I've already had the legal department prepare the necessary paperwork. Zhou Mingyuan's voice carried a hint of amusement. President Su, isn't this too obvious? Director Shin probably won't agree. Su Wanqing sneered. What can he do if he doesn't agree? The money belongs to the company. I can give it to whomever I want. If he makes a scene, that's fine too. You can take over as the technical director. In recent years, his sharpness has been worn down. He's stuck on those technical details. His vision is too narrow, and he can't keep up with the company's development. Zhou Mingyuan replied respectfully. President Su is indeed very considerate. However, Director Shin is, after all, your husband. What if he takes legal action? Law? Su Wanqing scoffed. Was the company's legal department just sitting around doing nothing? The equity transfer process was legal and compliant, and the year-end bonus distribution method fell within the company's autonomy. He might cause a fuss, but he couldn't stir up any trouble. Once the financing was in place and the company's valuation doubled, what was this little bit of money? At that point, he wouldn't have the right to bargain with me anymore. She paused, then softened her voice. Mingyuan, do a good job. When the time is right, the technology department, and even the entire company, will need a young person like you who is energetic and adaptable to take the helm. Zhou Mingyuan's voice was trembling with suppressed excitement. Thank you for your guidance. President Su, I will definitely not let you down. The video has ended. Shinduo turned off the media player. The only sound in the room was the soft hum of the computer fan. He leaned back in his chair, looking up at the ceiling. He suddenly chuckled softly. Laughter echoed in the empty room, carrying endless mockery and sorrow. Su Wanqing, it turns out that in your heart, I had long been seen as a stumbling block because I was too narrow-minded, couldn't keep up with development, and wasn't qualified to bargain. It turns out that 3 years of sharing a bed couldn't compare to a flattering and energetic young secretary. It turns out that our marriage and relationship are so vulnerable in the face of capital and power. That's fine. In this way, I can let go of my last bit of hesitation. Shinduo sat up straight, his eyes regaining their sharpness and clarity. He encrypted and backed up the video files, packaged them together with all the evidence he had previously collected, and sent them to multiple secure locations. Then, he began to draft a document. It's not a resignation letter. It is a report on Qiming Technology's suspected embezzlement, withdrawal of capital, and illegal alteration of equity structure, and the divorce agreement. On Monday, at 8:50 a.m. sharp, Shinduo stepped into the office building where Qiming Technology was located. He ran into several colleagues from other departments in the elevator. When they saw him, their expressions were somewhat subtle. They quickly greeted him and then lowered their heads, not daring to say anything more. Clearly, rumors had already spread over the weekend. Shinduo remained calm and walked straight into the technical department. Old Chen immediately came up to him, lowering his voice. Brother Chun, something's wrong. I just heard that President Su called the CFO, HR director, and several shareholder representatives to the main conference room. It seems it's for a meeting with you. Shinduo nodded. I know. Old Chen panicked. You know? Then why are you so calm? I heard they've even prepared resignation agreements. This is a coup attempt. Don't worry. Shinduo patted Lao Chun on the shoulder. I know what I'm doing. Keep things stable in the tech department. No matter what happens, the project can't stop, and the code can't be messed up. Looking into Shinduo's calm eyes, Old Chen felt inexplicably at ease and nodded emphatically. Understood. At 8:55, Shinduo left the technical department and headed towards the main conference room. The corridor was long and covered with a thick carpet, so that footsteps were absorbed and the place was completely silent. He could sense countless eyes secretly cast upon him from behind the workstations he passed, filled with curiosity, sympathy, or schadenfreude. Shinduo kept his eyes straight ahead. He stopped at the entrance of the main conference room and straightened his shirt cuffs. Then, He pushed open the door and entered. The conference room was already full of people. The head seat at the long conference table was empty. That was Su Wanqing's seat. She hasn't arrived yet. Sitting on the left were CFO Li Wan, HR Director Sun Jigua, and two shareholder representatives whom Shinduo was not very familiar with. On the right, Zhou Mingyuan was already seated near the head of the table, with a laptop and folders in front of him, looking like a key participant. As soon as Shinduo entered, all eyes turned to him. Zhou Mingyuan stood up and gave a professional smile. Director Shin is here. Please have a seat. He pointed to a spot at the very end of the long table. That was the furthest and most inconspicuous place from the main seat. Shinduo glanced at him, but didn't move. I don't need Secretary Zhou to arrange where I sit. He pulled out a chair in the middle on the right and sat down calmly. Zhou Mingyuan's smile froze for a moment, and he didn't say anything more before sitting back down. The atmosphere in the meeting room was heavy. No one spoke. Only the faint sound of the air conditioner vents. 9 o'clock sharp. The meeting room door was pushed open again. Su Wanqing walked in. Today she wore a dark, gray suit skirt. Her hair was neatly tied back. Her makeup was exquisite, and she exuded a powerful aura. He was holding a dark blue folder. She walked straight to the head seat and sat down, her gaze sweeping across the room, lingering on Shun Duo's face for half a second before looking away. Everyone's here. Let's begin. Su Wanqing spoke, her voice calm and devoid of any emotion. Today's meeting is mainly to discuss the year-end bonus distribution for Shinduo, the director of the technical department, and the subsequent matters arising therefrom. She opened the folder and took out a file. First, regarding the year-end bonus, the finance department has verified that due to a system error, Shinduo's year-end bonus was mistakenly transferred to Zhou Mingyuan's account. The finance department bears primary responsibility for this matter. Director Li, please submit a written self-criticism after this meeting. CFO Li Wan nodded quickly. Yes. President Su, it was our oversight. Su Wanqing continued. The mistake has been corrected, and the bonus has been fully transferred back to Shun Duo's account. This matter could have ended there. She changed the subject. However, afterward, Shinduo not only failed to understand the company's difficulties, but also repeatedly questioned the company's decisions in public, spread false information, seriously affected the team's morale, and caused potential negative impacts on the company's upcoming B-plus round of financing. Her gaze fell on Shinduo, cold and sharp. As the chief technology officer, Shinduo's actions have seriously violated professional ethics and company rules and regulations. After discussion and decision by management, the following disciplinary action is proposed. She pushed the documents in her hand to the center of the table. First, Shinduo must issue a written apology to the company's management and all employees for his inappropriate words and actions. Second, Shinduo's entire performance bonus for this year will be deducted, and he will be demoted to senior technical advisor and no longer serve as technical director. Third, given that Shinduo's current condition is no longer suitable for him to remain in the company's core position, the company has decided to terminate his employment contract. Su Wanqing paused, took out another document from the folder, picked it up herself, and walked to Shinduo. She gently placed the document on the table in front of Shinduo. This is the resignation agreement. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was loud enough for everyone in the conference room to hear clearly. Sign it. That's the end of the year-end bonus issue. You resign voluntarily, and the company is giving you the last bit of dignity. Shinduo looked at the few thin pages of paper on the table. Then he looked up at Zhou Mingyuan, the young man who, 3 days ago, used his authorization code to withdraw 7.038.600 yuan of year-end bonus from the financial system. At this moment, Zhou Mingyuan had his eyes downcast, but a barely perceptible smile was playing on his lips. 7,300,000. He led his team to successfully complete the Smart Cloud Port project, sleeping only 4 hours a day for 4 consecutive months, which earned him a year-end bonus. Now, it has become a bargaining chip for his wife to force him to back down. President Su is betting you'll compromise. Zhou Mingyuan suddenly spoke softly, with just the right amount of respect. Director Shun, don't be stubborn. Sign it, and we can all part ways amicably. Shinduo's gaze shifted from the agreement to Su Wanqing's face. The face he had loved for 8 years and been married to for 3 years now held only a businesslike indifference and a hint of impatient certainty. She bet he would eventually give in, just like in every previous argument. I bet he can't bear to give up this marriage, this job, or everything he's built up over the years. Shinduo picked up his pen. A faint hint of relaxation flashed across Su Wanqing's eyes. Then, she saw Shinduo turn to the last page of the agreement and neatly sign his name in the signature column. The sound of the pen nib slicing across the paper was jarringly clear in the silent conference room. Signed. Shinduo closed his pen and gently pushed the agreement back in front of Su Wanqing. As you wish. His voice was calm. Su Wanqing's confident expression froze instantly. She looked at the signed agreement, then suddenly looked up at Shinduo, her pupils contracting sharply. You. The usually aloof and composed group president swallowed hard, his fingertips unconsciously curling up. She panicked. Checkpoint. Shinduo ignored her panic. He also took out a document from his briefcase. It was much thicker than Su Wanqing's resignation agreement. He stood up and gently placed the first page of the document on the table, facing everyone on either side of the conference table. Then, he raised his eyes, his gaze calmly sweeping over Su Wanqing, over Zhou Mingyuan, over the CFO, the HR director, and the 2 shareholder representatives. I signed the resignation agreement. Now, it's my turn. His finger touched the title of the document. The words are in black and white, crystal clear. Preliminary evidence and legal opinion regarding Zhou Mingyuan's alleged conspiracy with Su Wanqing to embezzle 7.03 million yuan of company funds for illegal equity subscription. At the bottom of the signature page, a bright red official seal was affixed. Jinghua Law Firm. The meeting room was deathly silent. Everyone's eyes were fixed on that document. The color drained from Su Wanqing's face at a visible speed. Zhou Mingyuan's previously composed smile froze completely on his face, and his pupils suddenly contracted. The pen in the hand of CFO Li Wan fell to the table with a thud. The silence lasted for about 5 seconds. Then, Zhou Mingyuan suddenly stood up, his voice trembling with urgency. Shinduo, what nonsense are you spouting? This is a frame-up. Shinduo didn't even look at him. His gaze was fixed on Su Wanqing's face. Mr. Su, would you like me to read the first item on the evidence list? Su Wanqing braced her hands on the edge of the table, her knuckles turning white from the force. She stared intently at Shinduo, her lips pressed into a straight line, her chest heaving violently, but she couldn't utter a single word. Shinduo picked up the document and turned to the first page. Evidence 1. A bank transfer record from the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China dated December 28th. It shows a transfer of 7.038.600 yuan from Shinduo's account to Zhou Mingyuan's account, with the description year-end bonus payment. This transaction was completed using Shinduo's employee ID authorization code, and the login IP address was the president's office. He paused, then looked at the CFO, Li Wan. Director Li, according to the company's financial regulations, is it necessary for you to confirm the receiving account when distributing year-end bonuses? Li Wan's face was deathly pale. Cold sweat beaded on her forehead, and she opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Shinduo continued. Evidence 2. On December 26th, Chiming Technologies' business registration change record showed a new shareholder, Zhou Mingyuan, with a subscribed capital contribution of 7.038.600 yuan, holding 11% of the shares. The date of the subscribed capital contribution is highly correlated with the aforementioned transfer date. He looked up at the 2 shareholder representatives. Chairman Wang, Chairman Liu, does the company need a shareholders' meeting resolution to increase capital and introduce new shareholders? Have you both signed the resolution document? The 2 shareholder representatives looked at each other, their faces darkening. The middle-aged man surnamed Wang spoke in a deep voice. President Su, what's going on? How come we didn't know about the company's capital increase? Su Wanqing's throat bobbed, and she finally managed to speak. But her voice was terribly dry. Chairman Wang, this matter. I'll explain it to you later. I'm afraid we can't wait any longer. Shinduo interrupted her, turning to the next page. Evidence 3. Archived CCTV footage from the CEO's office on December 25th. Upon hearing this, Su Wanqing and Zhou Mingyuan's expressions changed drastically at the same time. Impossible, Zhou Mingyuan exclaimed. The office surveillance cameras had long ago. It's been regularly cleared out, hasn't it? Shen Duo picked up the conversation, his tone flat. Unfortunately, the technical department installed decision-making recording software at General Manager Su's request. This software automatically records screen operations and audio, archives them on a separate server, and retains them for 1 year. Secretary Zhou, would you like me to play back your conversation with General Manager Su in the office at 3:20 p.m. on December 25th? Zhou Mingyuan looked as if he had been choked. His face turned bright red, and he was breathing rapidly, but he couldn't utter a single word. He turned sharply to look at Su Wanqing, his eyes filled with fear and pleading. Su Wanqing closed her eyes briefly, and when she opened them again, all that remained in her eyes was a cold, resolute look. She stopped looking at Zhou Mingyuan and looked at Shen Duo. Her voice hoarse. Shen Duo, what exactly do you want? What do I want? Shen Duo seemed to find the question amusing. President Su, you're the ones who misappropriated my bonuses, illegally changed the shareholding structure, and even tried to force me to resign. And now you're asking me what I want. He put away the documents and glanced around the room. My request is very simple. First, the 11% equity stake illegally acquired by Zhou Mingyuan shall be immediately revoked. The related investment of RMB 7.038.600 shall be returned to my account. Second, as the company's president, Su Wanqing is suspected of embezzlement and misappropriation of capital. She must explain this to the board of directors and all shareholders, and voluntarily resign from her position as president to accept an internal investigation. Third, the company must issue a public apology to me regarding this incident and compensate me for all losses incurred, including but not limited to damage to reputation, lost wages, and legal fees. With each statement made, the atmosphere in the meeting room grew more tense. By the time he finished speaking, Su Wanqing was deathly pale. Zhou Mingyuan's legs went weak, and he slumped back into his chair, his eyes unfocused. Shen Duo, Su Wanqing spat out through gritted teeth. Don't push your luck. You think you can bring me down with this? I'm the company founder, the largest shareholder. That won't be the case for long. Shen Duo took another document out of his briefcase. This time, it was a photocopy of an equity transfer agreement. Mr. Su has probably forgotten that 3 years ago, during the company's Series A financing, in order to show your trust in your marriage and partners, you signed this nominee agreement, which stated that 15% of your shares were joint property of the couple, held by Shen Duo on your behalf. Shen Duo flipped the agreement open and pointed to the signature. It's all in black and white, with your handwritten signature and the notary's seal. Legally, this 15% stake belongs to our marital property and is held on my behalf. In other words, I currently effectively own 15% of the voting rights and profit rights in Shiming Technology. He looked up at the two shareholder representatives. Chairman Wang holds 18% of the shares. Chairman Liu holds 12%, adding my 15%. And Director Li, Director Sunday, and other small shareholders. Mr. Su, are you sure you're still the largest shareholder and can still control the board of directors? Su Wanqing was struck dumb, staggered back a step, and bumped into the back of the chair. She stared intently at the shareholding agreement, her eyes almost bleeding with bloodshot eyes. You planned this all along? You've been waiting for this day? No. Shen Duo shook his head, a hint of pity in his voice. This agreement was handed to me by you back then, saying, this is my guarantee and trust in you. I never intended to use it against you. It was you who forced me step by step to take it out. He gathered all the documents and put them back in his briefcase. Complete copies of the relevant evidence, along with my formal lawyer's letter, have been delivered to Jinghua Law Firm. They will represent me in communicating with the company's board of directors and shareholders regarding subsequent matters. Shen Duo picked up the resignation agreement he had just signed on the table, glanced at it, and then tore it in half in front of everyone. The fragments drifted gently onto the gleaming conference table. This agreement, based on false premises and illegal coercion, is invalid. He glanced one last time at Su Wanqing, whose face was ashen, and at Zhou Mingyuan, who was slumped in his chair with a blank stare. The meeting can continue, but it's no longer my concern. After speaking, Shinduo turned around and walked towards the door of the conference room. His steps were steady, and his back was upright. There was not a trace of lingering affection. After Shinduo left, the conference room descended into chaos for several minutes. Su Wanqing tried to stabilize the situation, her voice trembling as she explained, Chairman Wang. Chairman Liu, there's a misunderstanding. I can explain. Explain what? Chairman Wang slammed his fist on the table, his face ashen. Su Wanqing, we invested in Qiming Technology because we believe in your abilities and your team, not for you to use company money to play these dirty tricks. Misappropriating core employees' bonuses to buy shares for your secretary? And forging procedures? Do you think we're fools? Chairman Liu also said coldly, this matter must be thoroughly investigated. If the evidence Shinduo provided is true, you are suspected of committing a criminal offense. As shareholders, we have the right to demand an extraordinary general meeting of shareholders to remove you from your position as president and to initiate internal audit and judicial proceedings. No, no. Su Wanqing panicked completely. She looked at Zhou Mingyuan as if grasping at the last straw. Mingyuan, say something. You're the one who took the money. You're the one who took the shares. Tell Chairman Wang and Chairman Liu that this is all a misunderstanding. Zhou Mingyuan seemed like a completely different person at this moment. He jumped to his feet, his face deathly pale, and pointed at Su Wanqing. His voice shrill, President Su, you can't just say things like that. You made me accept the money. You forced me to agree to the shareholding. You said it was for the company's strategic planning. That Director Shun was no longer useful and that I should be groomed to succeed him. I was just following your orders. Now that things have gone wrong, you can't put all the blame on me. You. Su Wanqing stared at him in disbelief, trembling with rage. Zhou Mingyuan, what promises did you make to me back then? You said you were absolutely loyal. That Shinduo was too narrow-minded. That only you could help me stabilize the company. And now you're turning your back on me. I did it for work. Zhou Mingyuan said rapidly, eager to distance himself. Chairman Wang, Chairman Liu, I was young and naive, and I was misled by President Su's empty promises. But I absolutely did not intend to embezzle company funds. I haven't touched a single penny of that 7 million. It's still in the account. I can transfer it back to the company immediately. I don't want the shares anymore. It was all arranged by President Su. I was just used. His desperate attempt to protect himself and his subsequent counterattack drew disdain from everyone present. CFO Li Wan couldn't help but speak up, Secretary Zhou. The transfer was completed by you logging into the system using Director Shun's authorization code. And the IP address was the president's office. How do you explain that? That's what President Su told me to do. Zhou Mingyuan blurted out. She said she knew Director Shun's authorization code and told me to do it directly. I had no idea it was against the rules. HR Director Sun Jigua frowned and said, the appointment of the Deputy Director of the Technology Department was also forced by President Su. And it didn't go through the normal procedures at all. Secretary Zhou, you have no technical background. So this appointment itself is unreasonable. When a wall falls, everyone pushes it down. The management team, who had been silent and observing just moments before, now saw that the situation was hopeless and began to distance themselves from the blame, shifting the responsibility to Su Wanqing. Su Wanqing stood alone and helpless in front of the main seat, looking at the faces in front of her that were either angry, contemptuous, or eager to protect themselves, and felt dizzy. The authority she had painstakingly cultivated over the years, the control she thought was secure, crumbled instantly after Shinduo tore open that crack. Fine, fine. She gave a bitter laugh, her eyes unfocused. It's all my fault. I forced you all to do this, Zhou Mingyuan. I was truly blind to believe someone like you. Zhou Mingyuan turned his face away, not daring to look at her. Chairman Wang took a deep breath and said in a solemn voice, President Su, given the current situation, I, as a shareholder, propose the following. First, immediately suspend Su Wanqing from all duties as president and have the board of directors temporarily take over the company's operations. Second, establish a special investigation team to thoroughly investigate this financial and equity incident. Third, immediately contact Mr. Shinduo and his lawyer to negotiate a solution to salvage the company's reputation and avoid legal risks. Those who agree, please raise your hands. Chairman Liu was the first to raise his hand. Li Wan and Sun Jigua exchanged a glance and slowly raised their hands. The other middle-level managers present also raised their hands upon seeing this. It passed unanimously. Looking at the raised hands, Su Wanqing felt as if she were seeing a death sentence for her business career. Her legs gave way, and she slumped into a chair, covering her face with her hands, her shoulders trembling violently. It's not crying. It is a collapse driven to the extreme by despair. Seeing this, Zhou Mingyuan quietly moved towards the door, trying to slip away in the chaos. Secretary Zhou, Chairman Wang said coldly, "You cannot leave the company until the investigation is complete. Your office and computer will be temporarily sealed. Please cooperate." Zhou Mingyuan stood frozen in place, his face ashen. Shinduo did not leave the company immediately. He returned to the technical department and began packing his personal belongings. The office was quiet. The technical staff stood silently by their workstations. Watching him, Old Chin walked over with red eyes. "Brother Chin, are you really leaving?" Shinduo patted him on the shoulder. "I've signed the resignation agreement. It's legally binding. However, there might be changes within the company later, so just focus on your own work." "But," Old Chin choked up, "what about the Smart Cloud Port project? So much core code and design. Only you know it best. The code is all on the server. And I've also organized the documentation." Shinduo took a USB drive from the drawer and handed it to Lao Chun. This was the project's overall technical architecture diagram and key algorithm descriptions. "You've worked with me for so many years. Your abilities are not a problem. You'll take the lead from now on. Remember, technology is fundamental. Don't learn any crooked methods." Old Chin took the USB drive and nodded emphatically. "I'll remember that." "Brother Chun." The other key members also gathered around, expressing their reluctance and indignation all at once. Shinduo reassured them one by one and urged them to stabilize the project. Just then, a commotion arose at the office door. Chairman Wang and Chairman Liu, accompanied by Li Wan and Sun Jigua, walked in. The technical staff immediately fell silent and stepped aside. Chairman Wang walked up to Shinduo, his attitude becoming much more polite. "Director Shin, would it be convenient for us to talk in private?" Shinduo nodded and followed them to the small conference room next door. Closing the door, Chairman Wang cut to the chase. "Director Shin, you know what happened in the conference room just now? The board has suspended Su Wanqing from her duties and established an investigation team. On behalf of the board, we sincerely apologize for the unfair treatment you have suffered." Shinduo remained calm. "Chairman Wang, an apology won't solve the problem. I've already made my demands very clear." "Yes, we understand." Chairman Liu explained that we have verified the shareholding agreement, and it is authentic and valid. Legally, that 15% of the shares does indeed belong to you. We are willing to acknowledge your shareholder status and invite you to join the board of directors and participate in the company's future management. Shinduo raised an eyebrow slightly. This was somewhat unexpected. Chairman Wang sighed. "Director Shun, to be honest, Qiming Technology's success today owes much to your technical contributions. Su Wanqing is indeed capable in business development, but this incident exposed a major flaw in her character. She's short-sighted and scrupulous, and even willing to harm her closest partners. We can no longer trust a leader like that." Chairman Liu added, "The company is currently facing internal and external troubles. Our Series B+ funding round is likely to fall through due to this scandal. Competitors are eyeing us closely. We need someone with technical expertise, authority, and the ability to stabilize the core team. Director Shun, you are the most suitable candidate." Shinduo remained silent for a moment. "I can consider joining the board, but there are a few conditions." Speaking. "First, Su Wanqing must be completely ousted. Her shares can be transferred through negotiation or legal proceedings, but she can no longer participate in any of the company's business decisions. Second, Zhou Mingyuan is suspected of embezzlement and must be transferred to the judicial authorities for handling. The company must cooperate with the investigation to recover all the funds. Third, the independence of the technology department must be guaranteed. Going forward, the company's technology roadmap and our de-investment will be led by the technology committee, free from interference from non-professional factors. Fourth, my legal fees and all losses incurred as a result shall be borne by the company. Chairman Wang and Chairman Liu exchanged a glance and nodded without hesitation. We can agree to these conditions. For specific details, please have our legal department coordinate with your lawyer. Shinduo stood up. That's settled then. My lawyer will handle all the follow-up matters on my behalf. I have other things to attend to, so I'll be leaving now. Director Shun. Chairman Wang called him over. His tone sincere. He acknowledged that the board also bore responsibility for past oversight. He expressed hope that in the future, they could truly cooperate to bring the company back on track. Shinduo nodded, said nothing more, and left the small conference room. As he walked out of the technical department, he saw that Su Wanqing's office door was open at the end of the corridor. 2 administrative staff members were sealing off her office. Su Wanqing stood outside the door, holding a cardboard box containing her personal belongings. She lowered her head. Her hair was disheveled, and her back was hunched. She no longer possessed the aura of a high and mighty CEO. Shinduo paused, but ultimately did not go over. He turned and walked toward the elevator. The moment the elevator doors closed, he seemed to hear suppressed, broken sobs coming from the other end of the corridor. But he didn't turn around. 3 days later, Qiming Technology held an extraordinary general meeting of shareholders. Shinduo, as a newly confirmed shareholder holding 15% of the shares, attended the meeting. The meeting adopted several resolutions. Su Wanqing was formally removed from her positions as director and president. The 11% equity stake illegally acquired by Zhou Mingyuan was revoked, and his subscribed capital contribution of 7.038.600 yuan was recovered and returned to Shinduo. Shinduo was elected as a new director and appointed as the chief technology officer, responsible for the company's technology strategy and R&D system. A special committee, headed by Chairman Wang, was established to handle the exit of Su Wanqing's remaining shares and to communicate with the B-plus round investors. After the meeting, Shinduo, accompanied by his legal counsel, went to the bank. The 7.038.600 yuan in Zhou Mingyuan's account has been frozen. With the intervention of the police, the money was transferred back to Shinduo's account. Meanwhile, in order to preserve her last shred of dignity and avoid criminal prosecution, Su Wanqing voluntarily offered to transfer the remaining shares under her name to Shinduo as financial compensation for the incident, in exchange for a letter of understanding from Shinduo agreeing not to pursue her criminal liability. Shinduo accepted. It's not that I'm soft-hearted. Rather, it was a choice made after calm and careful consideration. Ultimately, Su Wanqing may face imprisonment, but the company's reputation will also collapse completely. Its valuation will plummet, and the value of his shares will shrink significantly. Accepting the compensation and ousting Su Wanqing would allow him to recoup far more than 7 million in profits, stabilize the company, and pave the way for his future control of the technology direction. The phase of acting on emotion is over. Now, it's purely a business decision. The signing ceremony took place at the law firm. Su Wanqing also came. In just a few days, she became so haggard that she almost lost her shape. Her eyes were sunken, her face was sallow, and she was wearing an ordinary sweater and trousers. No longer the sophisticated woman she used to be, adorned with designer brands. She sat across the table, watching Shinduo sign the equity transfer agreement, her fingers trembling slightly. After signing, Shinduo pushed the agreement over. Su Wanqing picked up the pen, her hand trembling violently. After several attempts, she finally managed to sign her name. The handwriting is crooked, yet the force penetrates the paper. It was as if he had used up all his strength. After signing, she put down her pen, looked up at Shinduo, and her lips moved as if she wanted to say something. Shinduo looked at her calmly, his eyes filled with neither hatred nor lingering affection, only an unfathomable indifference. All of Su Wanqing's words were stuck in her throat. She ultimately said nothing, lowered her head, and hurriedly left the meeting room. His back view was hurried, and he even seemed a little unsteady. Old Zhao put away the agreement and smiled at Shinduo. The formalities are complete. She's basically left with nothing, except for a few worthless shares. Chairman Wang and the others will handle the rest at the company. What about you? What are your plans now? Are you really going back to being the CTO? Shinduo leaned back in his chair and thought for a moment. I will also serve as CTO, but I want to focus my main energy on new projects. New project? A glimmer of light rekindled in Shun Duo's eyes. I plan to collaborate with Qiming Technology by contributing my technology as equity, establishing an independent AI underlying algorithm laboratory. We'll focus on cutting-edge technology exploration, unaffected by short-term commercial goals. Chairman Wang and the others agreed. Funding and resources will be supported by the group, but I'll have the final say on the research direction and team. Old Zhao whistled. Great. That's the kind of thing you should be doing. Those ridiculous management struggles are never your thing. Shinduo smiled but didn't say anything. He walked to the window and looked down at the bustling traffic below. The controversy surrounding the 7.03 million yuan prize money seems to have subsided. He got his money back, acquired shares, and obtained a higher position and greater influence. In some ways, they even won. But he knew in his heart that some things were lost forever. For example, trust in a marriage. For example, giving oneself to someone without reservation. For example, the girl who once talked to him about her dreams with sparkling eyes. But that's all right. Only by cutting ties cleanly can you go far. 1 month later, Shinduo's AI algorithm laboratory was officially established. The location is in a detached building next to Qiming Technology's headquarters. He took several top engineers from the original technical department and recruited several young talents from universities and research institutes, forming a team of less than 20 people, but full of elites. The lab's startup funding came partly from Qiming Technology's investment and partly from his lost and recovered 7.03 million yuan bonus. He used the money to purchase top-of-the-line computing equipment and establish a special talent fund. On the day of the listing, both Chairman Wang and Chairman Liu came to show their support. At the ribbon-cutting ceremony, Shinduo, as the laboratory director, gave a brief speech. There were no grand slogans, only simple promises. This place welcomes only those who have reverence for technology, curiosity about the unknown, and patience for challenging problems. Our goal is not to create the fastest monetization product, but to explore the fundamental technologies that may change the industry in the next decade. It may be slow, it may fail, but at least we tried. The audience erupted in applause. After the ceremony, Shinduo returned to his office. The room was very simple. Besides a desk, bookshelves, and a computer, there was a whiteboard covered with complex algorithm formulas. He sat down in the chair, opened the drawer, and found 2 documents inside. One is a new share certificate with his name and shareholding percentage on it. The other document is a divorce certificate that has already taken effect. He picked up the divorce certificate, opened it, and looked at the 2 names side by side and the red seal. I watched it for a long time. Then he closed it and put it back deep in the drawer. Lock it. Some things, once they're over, should be sealed away. He turned on his computer and logged into the lab's internal system. On the screen, a proposal for a new project pops up. The title is Research on a General Framework for Industrial Intelligent Agents Based on Next-Generation Neural Networks. The applicant is a PhD student in the team who just returned from MIT. He has radical ideas but great potential. Shinduo carefully examined the project overview. His eyes focused, his fingers unconsciously tapping the table. Outside the window, the sun is shining brightly. New code is about to be written.